So if I'm trying to learn how to make money betting on politics, I think the best place to learn is in the super high volume stuff like presidential elections and nominations for the Republican, president and the Democratic presidential nominee. Because like the market's just more predictable, there's more volume, you can get in, you can get out. But it sounds to me like maybe you're saying to do the opposite in sports, that like betting the NFL is actually kind of a trap if you're new and not quite so experienced.
Yeah, I think that's very true. Like I said, everybody bets the NFL, so it is basically the most efficient betting market in the world. And the closing line in the NFL, if you try to, fire drill live betting or try to live bet or bet right before kickoff on Sunday, you'll find that those are the most efficient lines in all of sports betting, and it is hard. A lot of sharp bettors bet earlier in the week. They try to get an edge on the market by doing so, by getting out ahead of injury information, by getting out ahead of, who may be in, who may be out. Why is this team so overpriced off of last week? Is the market going to move back toward them? Those little things. People do bet on Sunday, and there's a lot more money that moves around on Sunday, and you can still find an edge betting on Sunday. But I think we're seeing more and more of this as the space becomes so much more populated that people are going to stuff like player props. If you can, identify usage, so many people do fantasy football. The amount of work you're putting in to try to figure out who's going to get the most fantasy points for you, you could put a lot of that work into player props and figuring out how many yards is this person going to get, and how many receptions, how many targets, what's their target share. Like, people are doing more in props now. And just because it's a smaller market, you can actually find more of an edge in those kind of betting markets. I say the same thing for other sports. If you're trying to bet the NBA or baseball, props are becoming the market, I think, that's more exploitable. Of course, you have to do more work to do that, right? You have to know the players, the ins and outs, the schemes. But I think that's an interesting way of going at it. But for most people, betting is recreational, right? You want to get in on a Sunday and you want to put your 3 bets in and root for those teams. You want to bet your favorite team or bet against them. So
right.
I don't blame people who just bet sides and totals.
Well, so I think actually we have more in common than we thought on this answer, because if I think about, once you're kind of a mid-tier political gambler, the easiest way to make money is not to be right. Again, it's a great thing about political gambling is you don't really need to be right, because you can trade out of your position whenever you get ahead. But it's just to be one move ahead. Like, it's to understand that the polls in Pennsylvania, that there's no way that, John Fetterman, having had a stroke, is a 75-25 favorite over Dr. Oz, a TV star and heart surgeon. Like, that line is going to get closer to 50-50. So just, take odds at 25%. And sell them when you get to 40 or 50, and the world catches up with you. So that to me is like betting on Monday. Bet on Monday. Those injuries are going to come out, or whatever it may be, and that the money is going to kind of move in your direction if you're just patient and have some strong hands.
Absolutely, and then you can even introduce the concept of middling. I'll do sometimes where a line will be, let's say the team is -2.5 at home, but I know that market is going to move to 4.
Yeah.
I'll grab 2.5. I'll come back on the other team at 4. Over 13% of the time, an NFL game lands on 3. So you have a good chance of winning both of those bets. What's called middling. So you'll see that it's hard to do because the market is efficient to begin with. You can do that more kind of in college, smaller markets, stuff like that. But in the NFL, 3 and 7 are king. So if you can get around those key numbers, you got a good chance.
Yeah, and you can do that in politics by betting what's called margin of victory. But let's not belabor that. I guess before we move off this, I do want to ask, I said that, betting presidential races, betting presidential nominees is usually the best way to learn. I guess I would ask you, should people start out betting cricket matches in like Sri Lanka or, WNBA games, or what? Like, where do you start if you want to learn?
That's a question I get all the time, and I never know the right answer, because I think it's different for everybody. Bet the sport the most. For me, the sport that I grew up betting was, of course, everybody bets the NFL, but it was college basketball and baseball for me. Those are my first 2 loves as a fan, as a kid growing up. And so, college basketball is such an information game. It's so centered. There's so many teams. There's over 350 college basketball teams. If you become an expert on matchups and understanding just how the game is played and understanding what team has an edge. Maybe you specialize in like a couple of conferences. Maybe you're a huge NHL fan who has a really good feel for the game and a feel for the teams. You understand analytics a little bit. Regression to the mean is a huge thing that we talk about, using underlying numbers. In hockey, for example, a team can go on an incredible finishing run where they're just scoring all their shots. That's not going to continue. The best
Right.
teams create the most shots, right? So using kind of the same tactics, buying low and selling high on certain teams is always going to be king, especially in pro sports. I can't tell you how many times I'll bet a team like, last year the Jets were playing the Titans. The Titans were 2-0. Jets were 0-2. Everybody's saying the Jets are so bad. They're so bad. They're still a professional football team in the NFL.
Yeah.
You have to be careful with kind of how far down they can go. But I think just understanding matchups, learning information, and kind of trial and error. I mean, you're going to lose bets when you first start, right? It's like political gambling. You're going to be a novice. You're going to have to learn, listen to people who are smarter than you, read people who are smarter than you, and kind of learn how they do it and try to emulate that. It's kind of
yeah.
my best
Again,
advice.
I'm just like, I think we are just totally in sync intellectually here. Because you know what? Another great way to learn in political gambling, pick your home state. Like, you probably know where the wackos live in your home state. You probably know where the limousine liberals and the, dentists who secretly have, MAGA hats in their back office. Like, where all these things are in your home state. Figure out how your state works, and you'll have a template to learn how, states that you don't really understand work too. So once again, just, making it look easy here, Anthony. Thank you so much.